Ron DeSantis was announcing a special session in the state of Florida for the Florida Congress in order to fight back against the vaccine mandates and do so on a very effective state level. And we got to meet the governor before the speech. I'm very, very proud husband right now. My wife actually got to speak. But I think the governor can explain better himself exactly what he's going to be doing in the state of Florida, how he's going to be fighting back against Joe Biden's tyranny. So I'll let him explain for just a moment here exactly what this event today was about.
And if we have unconstitutional mandates coming down from the federal government, we have a responsibility to fight back and defend the constitutional system, and we'll do it. But I also know, just on a very practical level, this is not something, these forced shots, this is not something that's going to be good for Florida's economy. We have a lot of folks in very key industries. We're here at the hangar because we got a lot of folks in the airlines that are back there who are absolutely instrumental in America's economy, particularly Florida's economy, because we're the #1 tourist destination in the United States. August 2021, our hotel revenue was up 11% over pre-COVID August of 2019, even though the nation as a whole was down 5%. So we really, and yes, some people drive, but most people now fly into Florida, and so we need to have these airlines functioning. Losing some of these people is not going to be good for the state of Florida. Losing nurses is not going to be good for the state of Florida. Losing police officers or firefighters is not going to be good for the state of Florida. So we have to look at, yes, a freedom, very important, constitutional government, defending the Constitution, very important, but just on a practical basis, even if none of those concerns were things that really matter to you, this is not going to work well. And I think that's why you've seen some of these big businesses back off some of these mandates, because they realize that it's not something that is ultimately sustainable. And here's the thing. There are a lot of people that are fighting these mandates inside these businesses. I bet you some of them are vaccinated. They just, out of principle, do not want to have to show. Then there's others who probably aren't opposed to doing it, but they want it to be their individual choice, and they don't want it to be heavy-handed brought down. Because it's not a free choice. If you say, get a shot or lose your job, that's not a free choice for a lot of people because their livelihood's hanging in the balance. So there's a lot of things that are really, really important. And
so that is what Ron DeSantis is going to be doing here in Florida. He's going to be fighting for workers' rights. The reason why we were so excited to be invited today is because my wife was actually able to speak at this event. Very, very excited about that. Here's a photo of us right before the event. That's my wife. My wife is a registered nurse. She is a nurse and has been a nurse in the ICU in Washington, D.C. She's worked for the VA. Nurse Kate, if you don't follow her on Instagram already, you should go find her and follow her. She has a fantastic account. She's a wonderful mother, and I'm a very, very proud husband. But the city of D.C. is threatening to revoke my wife's nursing license. That's right, because my wife refuses to comply with unconstitutional and illegal mandates in Washington, D.C., even though we don't live there anymore. We are no longer D.C. residents. We have completely decoupled from Washington. They sent angry and nasty letters to our home to try and threaten my wife and threaten her career. Now, here's what was so special right here in this moment and why I'm so happy that I captured this photo. Ron DeSantis was meeting with us backstage and said something to my wife that changed our lives forever. He said to Kate, okay, tell me your story. And Kate explains that the city of D.C. And the D.C. Board of Nursing is actually coming after her to try and ruin her license, not just in D.C., but here in Florida. Now, my wife is pregnant. My wife was breastfeeding just a number of months ago, still with our newborn. You can still call it newborn, right? Wasn't even a year old. And my wife obviously is going to be making her own personal health decisions. We don't talk about our health decisions publicly, but we're going to be making our own decisions. And it's quite frankly, nobody's business but ours, what our health decisions are, especially when it includes the life of an unborn child, when it includes the life of our new child, and also if you're breastfeeding, it includes the life of your new child, right? The baby, Eloise, who was just a few months old at the time. So our personal decisions are now going to be affecting the lives of other people. And so Kate was telling that to the governor here in this moment. Kate was telling that to the governor and explaining that the Board of Nursing could level and is trying to level a strike against her nursing license in the city of Washington, D.C. It's not a state, it's like a district, right? And that strike would then carry over for Kate getting a nursing license here in Florida. And so that's going to be then on her record, and she's going to have to answer to the nursing board for that strike. It's a very important thing to make sure that you are licensed, obviously, in these professions and in a lot of professions. I mean, it's not just nursing, it's a ton of different professions that need licensure. And so in this exact moment, you can see Governor DeSantis there going, hey, wait a second. I actually haven't thought about that, protecting people's licenses. That's really important for first responders, cops, nurses, anyone who may come to Florida for refuge for their professional career. You're seeing across the nation, cops getting fired, police getting fired, nurses getting fired in states coast to coast. And so here, in this exact moment, is the moment where Governor DeSantis is telling my wife right there, hey, we're going to add that to the bill. We're going to go into a special session and we're going to add that to the bill. You're going to be able to get protections for the licenses that you may have lost or may have been assaulted for or persecuted for or segregated against in these various states. We're going to go after those licenses. We're going to protect you from having your career destroyed. It was an incredible, incredible moment. It legitimately changed our lives forever. It was such a powerful moment because it's Kate's testimony, having the governor listen and say, okay, wait a second, I'm going to act on that. My wife also spoke at the event, and here's what that sounded like. Got to tell y'all, I'm very, very proud husband here.
She's new to Florida, and she's been a nurse for a decade. She has a daughter under 1, and she's currently pregnant, and she's worked for the VA. She'd like to return here in Florida, but this vaccination thing is actually causing problems with licensure in the District of Columbia that could affect her ability even to work in Florida. So I'm going to invite her up to tell her story. Kate?
Hi, I'm Kate Johnson, and I, like many people, am not out of reach of the long arms of government. So moving to Florida, I thought that my job would be safe, my protections would exist here, but DC has decided that by not complying with reporting my vaccine status to them, they are going to take action against my license and work to revoke my license, which would mean that I stand a very high risk of having my Florida license, which I just received, revoked. I recovered from COVID. I have natural immunity. I am pregnant. I have a daughter that I have been breastfeeding until recently, which maybe is TMI, but it is an important fact that there are special considerations that must be taken into account. And it seems that in this current climate, there's not any consideration given to people's medical exemptions, people's religious exemptions, people's overall perspective on some of these matters. And it's very concerning to me. The reason I'm really here is it's concerning to me that there are going to be so many patients who suffer as a result of this mandate. People need nurses. We are in a critical nursing shortage. And to take away, even if it's 5% of the workforce in a city like DC, where you are running on bare bones at all times, trying to get as many nurses as you possibly can to show up for work, to put a mandate like this in place and remove any percentage of nurses from the front lines is detrimental to patients' health. And as a nurse, I was recognized in every job I've ever held as an exemplary nurse, as a nurse who cares deeply for what happens to patients, what happens to the people of DC, what happens to the people of my new home in Florida. It is concerning to me that these mandates would put those people's lives in jeopardy. It was fine for nurses to put themselves in jeopardy when we didn't know anything about this virus. And now that we have clarity and we know that people with natural immunity have a very good chance of having maybe even better protection than people who are vaccinated, we're now not willing to provide them the opportunity to present that as proof that they are not a danger to their patients. It's very nice to be in a place where we have a governor who's willing to stand up for us, who believes that nurses matter, who believes that patients matter, who believes that we need to have frontline workers. So thank you, Governor DeSantis.
Thank you. And I think I think Kate is not unusual in terms of, with a lot of the nurses, particularly the female nurses who are, in childbearing years. Some of them are pregnant, but some of them may be wanting to. Many of them, like Kate, have had COVID and recovered. So how should they lose their job if they're just making a judgment whether that's something that they think they want to do? Because in spite of what some people tell you who say they know everything, the fact of the matter is, we're going to find out more and more stuff as the years go on. And so to take that choice away from someone at the risk of their livelihood is just fundamentally wrong. And as Kate said, it is absolutely going to hurt patients because we already are in need to have more people. What I've said in Florida is, and obviously the CMS rule is going to put a lot of them under a gun, but if we can fight that back to allow people to work and not make this a precondition, that's going to benefit Florida, because you're going to have all these nurses that lose their jobs in these other states. They're going to want to come down here. We won't have a nurses shortage in Florida if we just respect their medical freedom and their ability to make decisions. So it's sad that we're even in this situation, but I think strategically, protecting people's rights and freedoms in this regard would actually redound to the benefit by getting more qualified people to come.
My wife, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very proud husband here. Gotta say, I have seldom, I don't know if I've ever been prouder of her. She stood up, she spoke the truth, and it was amazing. Honestly, it was amazing. While she was speaking, and while she was literally changing Florida law, our daughter was running around the helicopter behind the stage. She couldn't sit still. This was over her nap time, so she was running around the police helicopter here as Daddy was babysitting. It was an amazing day. It's an amazing place to live in Florida, to have fighters like Ron DeSantis fighting for us. It is a wonderful thing to know that you have a governor that actually listens to his cops, his firefighters, his police officers, the people who work in this state, and a governor who actually stands up for us. We have only been here a few months, but already my wife, who is a nurse and if you've ever had the pleasure of interacting with her or being treated by her in a hospital environment, because she was working for 10 years in Washington, D.C., you will know she is just the greatest professional ever. You want someone like Nurse Kate treating you. You do not want to send those people away. You don't want to fire those people. Those are the people who are the backbone of your healthcare. Here is a final clip from Governor DeSantis that I thought was great, really sums up what the conference was about. Again, it was such an honor to meet him.
This would have been something we would have done last legislative session. If I honestly thought this would be something that would get this far, we would have made it a big priority. But I didn't think that this was something, because even Biden, remember, he said we would never mandate it. Remember he said that? We would never mandate it. That's what he said. And now he's in a situation where he's flip-flopped on that and is now doing. Fauci said you never mandate originally. Fauci said you can't mandate. Now Fauci is saying to mandate it. And so these guys are flip-flopping on this, and I think it's wrong. Now, as we bring the legislature back to provide protections for Floridians for their jobs, I think it's also important that we fortify parents' rights related to some of the things that we've been seeing going on. We've been winning these cases in court. and we'll win in the First Circuit DCA with respect to the Parents' Bill of Rights. But if you look at how that was drafted, it wasn't drafted with the idea that you would have subordinate government agencies just totally flout the law.
So Ron DeSantis bringing back the state legislature in Florida in order to galvanize the rights that we have against these these mandates, these vaccine mandates, and against the tyranny of the Biden administration. Just an amazing day, just an awesome moment. Here was my perspective before my baby got a little too fussy of DeSantis and my wife. So proud of her. Nurse Kate, give her a follow on Instagram. A great day. And Governor DeSantis, listening to the concerns of my wife, listening to the problems that nurses and registered nurses are having across this country and saying, we're going to fix that with legislation. We're going to add that to legislation right now. And thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you for watching. We are 100% independent news. Are you sick of being lied to? We certainly are. That's why we started this channel. But we can't do it without you. We can't keep going without your help. All we ask is that you click like and subscribe and share this video. It's free. And it keeps us going, it keeps us growing, and it keeps us getting the truth out there to break the rotted corporate media infrastructure that wants to lie to you every single day, wants to corrupt your narratives, your truth, your story, and your very society. So support us by clicking like, clicking subscribe, and thank you, Patriots.